Hey everybody, how's it going? It's been a while, but welcome back to today's video. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, today's video we'll be talking about pirate software and I'm just going over his lies. Specifically, I'm exposing the fact that this guy is no good. But yeah, for all you pirate software, meat riders and bandwagoners and all that nonsense, man, just chill out for a little bit and actually look at the information given before you hop on that train. Speaking of train, there's a video that came up recently on my timeline by Quinthea, which I'll link his video in the description below for the full context of it. But basically, an ex-roommate of Pirate Software, she goes into talking about the hype train and the moderation team behind Pirate Software. So yeah, here you go.
Regardless, this hype train was kept alive by, at the very least, from what we see here, Kronos. And I went through in that video and did quite a hefty amount of speculation, and where that specifically there was part of that with the terms of service, and that is kind of a bit of why we got in touch. If you could, so what is your experience with Twitch, the terms of service, things like that?
Okay, this is the fun part. So I was the sole UX writer for Twitch. What that means is I touched every department at Twitch.
Yeah, as she discussed, she was going to go into talking about her experience at Twitch, and she also worked at Blizzard with a photo of both her and Pirate Software as shown on screen. Here you go.
That includes things like terms of service enforcement. That includes all of the contracts. I dealt a lot with trying to convince a lot of the teams that they needed to be more explicit with their terms, and a lot of the time they weren't, because they wanted to be as concise as possible, which makes sense because users don't want to read anything. Like, that is just a thing. So we have to have an understanding in the terms of service.
Which makes sense. People just want to get through the actual progress of like, hey, this is something I can read for like 3-4 hours in a row, but now rather just like click the yes button, carry on with it. But at the same time, it falls into them enforcing their TOS and standards.
That things need to be taken more or less literally. When we're speaking on terms of inflating numbers, we mean things like view counts. It means the actual functional numbers that would actually matter for metrics. Like, it has nothing to do with things like donations,
Or a hype train level.
Or a hype train level.
Okay.
Like, it should not have anything to do with that, because hype train is one of those very pay to win systems. If you can pay to win, you pay to win. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Okay.
Now, there is something to be said about if Pirate himself was using an alt account to inflate the numbers, that could potentially be an argument. But if it was his mods, it is not unusual for mods themselves to contribute to hype trains.
Which, not gonna lie, I do remember seeing some content creators or people being outed for this kind of thing, where people would launder money to streamers and be like, "Hey, we'll give you this much if you pay us out this much," just a transactional thing. Which, not gonna lie, sign me up, man. I need that extra money. Which, hey, like, that's against TOS. They're not gonna ban him for it. They don't, like, Twitch doesn't enforce its own policy. It's actively losing money. Which, hey, like, I get, like, you're trying to be profitable at the same time, hold your standards to a higher degree. But she does get into the topic of what would happen if something like that were to occur. So here.
Is because 100 tier 1 subs had already been donated by his main account, which he said as much about.
And also, if you're creating an alternate account, you do not say, "This is my alternate account."
Which, yeah, he's a grown-ass man. He can do what he wants with his money. I don't think I've ever heard of a grown-ass man receiving a paycheck and then taking part of that check and handing it back to his boss. But I digress. That's just a goofy, funny little thing.
It's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's just sad, since you could have just built that following naturally, which he did. He built that following through, YouTube Shorts and Twitch, and became like one of the nominated streamers. But at the same time, it's like you have articles written about you breaking this hype train or breaking the record for the hype train because you capped it out, which could be a lie. You could have just paid for 100 pre-gifted subs and then just started that hype train already, which, that's just scummy, man. Like, come on. But he goes into talking about Kronos, and yeah,
being better for Kronos when it turned. Now, I did just find out recently that it was established for that hype train that the moderators were going to be receiving half of that hype train's proceeds.
Oh my! And not just reimbursed; they're getting a paycheck for this work. They're getting money on top of buying these bits. They're essentially getting bribed. to do this. So to me, that's illicit. To me, that should absolutely be a bannable offense. But Twitch is not going to enforce it because they were not using bits to exchange directly for money.
Even if this is like, okay, well, we'll work around the rule. There's no, well, we're not planning to go forward and like edit the rule to make it more specific because they prefer conciseness over covering.
They didn't send 10,000 bits for an Apple gift card.
That's all this is planned to cover.
It is seriously messed up. Yeah.
Okay, totally.
Sorry for the weird cut, but yeah, near the end of it, she does say like, "Hey, I hope this isn't real, but if it is, man, come on, man." It's Twitch's own guidelines, which they don't really do a good job at enforcing, because you do see, Hassan Piker, we got baby oil enthusiast Hassan Piker over here, and most importantly, threatening someone over a live stream with a gun, which he quotes is an airsoft gun, or many of his audience think is an airsoft gun, and brings up Penguin Zero or Moist Critical. But the difference between Moist Critical and Hassan's situation is that Moist Critical did it as like, hey, this is what a actual magazine is, and not a clips, when he was responding to Sneeko. But he's trying to pull up like, oh, well, he did the same thing. He did this. No, it's not. It's very much different. And if you still think it's the same, you're very stupid and dumb. Which, to put some light in this kind of, bleak, H3 is currently in the process, I believe, of buying Creator Clash, which, hey, I hope that goes really well, and I really do hope to see more stuff like this.
Is for sale, and I'm going to be buying it.
Okay. How much of that statement is true?
Well, how much is Creator Clash worth?
Okay.
Negative.
We can start the conversation there. I mean,
Which, hey, don't get me wrong, what's his name? iDubbbz and Anissa should have never done that to Froggy Fresh and to the other fighters they've, not paid or double crossed or took all the profits for. They should have very much donated that money to charity. But at the very least, at least H3 is actually going to do something, I hope potentially good for the community and creators as a whole, and for charity as a whole. That's the main goal of it. It's just to raise money for charity. It's to do something good, nice, and help people out. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video.